Hello, this is Craig Mertens, Director of Product Education for Inktovo, the parent company of GraphicsFlow, Inksoft, Printavo, SignTracker, and Clarity. We've expanded to the UK now. The course we're going to be teaching today is getting prepared for the back-to-school season. I know it's May, and May just started. Why are we talking about back to school already? Well, the reason we're talking about already is the school years are winding down. Teachers are, getting ready for their summer vacations, and they're also thinking about what it's going to be like when they get back to school in the fall. They're starting to make decisions. They're talking to vendors. So if we don't get a jump on that, then we're going to get left out in the cold, and we don't want to do that. And so what we're going to do in the class today is we're going to go over some fundamental principles and strategies on how we can compete very favorably in that school, team, and sports market. And the first thing I really want to do is lay a foundation. So let me go ahead and share my screen. So the topic we're teaching today is back to school, ahead of the game, win school and team orders early. Back to school. So sports enthusiasm is a powerful driver of apparel sales. We are really blessed with that general enthusiasm for sports in teams and schools that we have in the US. And the idea here is to leverage that enthusiasm and to turn it into sales for our business. So I've put together a framework to kind of boost those revenues in this back to school season. And then we want to fuel some growth for you around that marketplace. So some of the things we're going to talk about today, we're going to talk about how to identify and attract decision makers. That's always a tricky thing to do. How to engage and inspire loyalty with your customers, very important. Creating retail quality graphics sell. If you have great products and you have not so great graphics, your products aren't going to do well and you're probably not going to get reorders. So we're going to tell you how to create some great looking graphics. And also how to differentiate your business. Graphics are certainly one of the ways that you can stand out from the competition. And nearly everyone on this webinar today is a GraphicsFlow subscriber. So you have access to a very powerful tool to create that differentiation. And then we're going to talk about prospecting campaigns and how to execute a prospecting campaign to go out and get new customers. And by the way, you can prospect to your existing customers as well to try to get what we call plus business on top of what you're already doing. So back to school targets. So why does this matter? This is the biggest audience. And you look at decorated apparel, the school team sports market is the biggest audience. There's the most amount of people participating. There's probably the highest level of enthusiasm. It is a little bit regional. Certain parts of the country are more into, so to speak, supporting their students and their teams. But universally across the United States and Canada, it's the largest audience for decorated apparel. It's also the most competitive. And now you have, in this new landscape, you have some of these large sporting goods buying cooperatives that will go in and say, hey, listen, we would like to do 100% of your uniforms and your sports apparel. In exchange for that, we're going to give you a scoreboard and we're going to give you a discount on your hard goods, or we're going to give you your football uniforms for free. So that has changed the climate slightly, but a couple of the competitive edges that you have. And the first one is graphics win. You guys all have a very powerful graphics capability with cutting edge graphics, and you can very quickly mobilize and get those in front of buyers. And also you're small enough to be nimble. You don't have to go through all these layers of decision making to decide to do something that's creative or to get some visual representations of some ideas in front of a buyer. If you just want to do it, you can do it. And you guys have the tools to do that. And I don't underestimate the power of being nimble. Being able to see something that's happening in the market environment and be able to jump on it, whether it's a trend that you're seeing in graphics or apparel, or possibly one of your teams or organizations around the school winning something. You are nimble, you can get in front of a buyer very quickly. And so the key market segments that we really want to focus on: youth sports, school sports teams. So, what's actually foundationally happening at the school in terms of the officially sanctioned sports, and club sports, booster clubs. I want to talk about that a little bit. And then school clubs and organizations. So youth sports covers a pretty broad list of potential opportunities there, right? You have everything from Pee Wee football to, now all of a sudden you have these sports that are really taken off, like lacrosse. So there's tons and tons of opportunities that represent themselves in youth sports. If you catch them young and you are dealing with these parents and booster clubs and coaches at a very young age, you can bring them up through their various stages of school and education. So, you start with somebody at a little league level when they're playing t-ball at 5 years old, and you can stay with them the whole time just by staying engaged with the customer, having cool graphics, and building out those relationships. Now, on the other side of that is the officially sanctioned schools and sports teams. That's the super competitive part of the business. And if you look at the photo there, that's my local high school, Squirrel Sabercats. They are a dynasty. They won countless state championships. They were just a huge level of enthusiasm, and they're sponsored by Nike. You're not going to get your foot in the door there. They have a humongous booster club. And booster clubs typically are not a formalized school-sponsored event. They're parent-driven. So they have a lot more latitude in terms of purchasing and what they can do versus the school process where you have to be an officially, not necessarily licensed. In some cases, parts of the country, you have to have a license to sell to the school. But in many parts of the country, you have to be an approved vendor, and there's a process you have to go through. You have a vetting process. And that can be a hindrance to doing commerce with that school. So booster clubs, you typically don't have any of that. You can show up at a football game and go over to the little merch desk and start chatting with somebody and say, oh, yeah, so you're the buyer for the booster club? Hey, my name is Craig, and I'm a local business. And we're very nimble. We have very cool graphics. We're well known for being a creative resource to our customers. Who do I need to talk to? Here's my card. The booster clubs are, more accessible. Now, also school clubs and organizations. So if you look at any school and you look at what I would qualify probably as the big 5 sporting activities around a school, certainly football, basketball, baseball, softball, girls volleyball, some of the big ones. The most highly participated sport at most schools is track and field, boys or girls. Band, that's a huge organization. And does the band get the same kind of attention as the varsity football team? Probably not. And does the drama club give the same level of attention? So if you can target some of these less serviced organizations and groups and clubs around a school, that's where the opportunities arise. And some of these small groups and organizations have a tremendous amount of support. And also they have parents. And what you're really interested in is not necessarily the athlete or the member of the organization of the club. You're interested in their network. And their network can be their siblings, can be their parents, could be friends of the family, could be their grandparents, aunts, uncles. They want to support the athlete. And many times people also that belong to school organizations and clubs, they also, have events they need to go to and they need to raise funds. And so if you become a resource around that and you focus on some of the lower hanging fruit, you can be quite successful. And so in other words, you can aim high if you want, but I'm kind of looking a little bit lower down the opportunity range. If that helps me to move up later on because I get some visibility by doing something with the tennis team. And then all of a sudden I get some visibility because the head coach of the tennis team is also an assistant coach for baseball. That's fantastic. But I want to set my sights a little bit lower in terms of trying to open up markets when I'm dealing with the school market. Practical strategies for outreach. This is pretty universally true. Most schools and school districts are going to have good visibility on their websites for locating key decision makers. I screen grabbed the Squirrel Sabercats website. This is a sub website from Scottsdale Unified School District. They have their own little website just for athletics. And with the athletics website, look, there's links to all the faculty sponsors there. And I can email them directly from there. So getting to the right person isn't always a big hassle. And, if you're using any kind of a CRM software or something, even as simple as an Excel spreadsheet, putting together a database is fantastic. And now you have all these wonderful tools for doing research that are AI enabled. You could get a free Perplexity account and just ask Perplexity, hey, give me a list of every elementary school, middle school, and high school in the following zip codes or in the Scottsdale Unified School District. And it'll put together those schools, and then you can query even further and find out who the athletic director is, and you can start querying. You can get a good portion of the information for your target list just by using AI tools. The one that I like to use is Perplexity. It's what I use for all my searches now. I rarely use Google search because Perplexity just works better, and it is giving me a result that is formatted in a way it's easier for me to use and process. And I can have it create lists for me too if I need to. Personal visits. There's no substitute for a good ground game. And your ground game is shaking hands, is introducing yourself to people, is maybe even going into the local school and, with a flyer and dropping off a flyer or a product sample, or maybe just your business card with a cover letter, and trying to identify who the key decision makers are. If you're dealing with schools, teams, sports, coaches, booster parents, assistant coaches, they're very busy. Most of the phone calls they're getting are going to be from parents that want to talk about their kid, why they're not starting or whatever their academic challenges are. So sometimes you can just catch people in their office. That's always a possibility. These folks get a tremendous amount of email traffic. Being able to write and compose an engaging email to get past all the barriers and get out of the spam filter. You can utilize AI, ChatGPT or Claude or whatever you're using to compose that. But, sometimes it's just a good idea to walk into the office, talk to the school secretary and say, hey, listen, do you have a list of faculty sponsors and parent sponsors and boosters and coaches for the athletic department or school organizations? And a lot of times they just have that, or it's listed on their website and they can just give you a link to find it. Direct calls, making a phone call. Are you going to get them on the phone? Nope, probably not. But you can make a direct phone call because I've got phone on this Saguaro High School. I've got the extensions for all these folks. I can make a call and just leave a message and say, Coach, check your email. Just a little elevator pitch about what you do and directing them to check their email. Hey, keep an eye out for that email. And especially if you create a graphic or something custom in the form of a virtual sample, when you send that email over, it'll get their attention for sure. And then leveraging your network. Who's your network? It's your coworkers. It's your real estate agent that has kids in sports. It is your church friends. It's all the folks that are within your circle of influence. And I think it's very important to let people know what you do and be able to have a quick little elevator pitch. So when somebody says, hey, what do you do? Well, I own a company that is a personalization company. We create ideas. We turn them into products like promotional products, wearables, awards. We are full service. We can design it, create it, produce it, ship it. We can move very quickly. Having that little elevator pitch where you can concisely explain to people what you do. If you don't get yourself out there, people never know what you do and opportunities don't present themselves. And so one of the things that you can do, which I think is really super smart, is wear your merch. If you're doing great work for Saguaro High School and you've created some really cool Saguaro High School merch and it's in your community, wear it out in the community. Make sure you have a business card. Somebody's going to ask you, hey, where'd you get that cool shirt? Where'd you get that cool hat with the leather laser etched patch on it? This is our business. Let me give you a card. It's got a QR code on it. You can go to the Saguaro Booster Club's website and you can order that hat from me. Becoming your customer's go-to creative resource. This is the key to the whole thing. I had a customer, Allison Merton. I had her on a webinar a while back, and we were chatting about, what do you do when a customer is just like beating you up over price? And because what can happen is you get buyer turnover, and buyer turnover means you have a really great relationship with Booster Club parent for 2024, but now it's 2025. School's coming around the corner. New Booster Club parent because the old parent's kids graduated, and that parent has their own idea about what to do. And so in a sense, you're kind of starting over. Now think about it like this. If you are hosting an online store for them, for that school, it's going to be harder for them to leave you because it's the way they do it. But also, if you've established yourself as this creative resource, it's hard for them to leave. And that's what Allison was talking about. She says, these people, they, want to beat me up for a quarter or a dollar or whatever. And I say, hey, listen, if price is the most important thing to you, we're probably not going to be a great fit for you. But I have competitive prices, but what you get from me is, your products are going to be there on time. If you had a kid that forgot to turn in their order or left their, hoodie or uniform on the bus, that I'm going to jump through hoops to help you. And most importantly, I am very creative, and all these great graphics that do really well in your fundraisers, I build all those. And that's why your fundraisers have been so successful, is we've been able to populate them with great looking products because you're leveraging my years of experience and expertise in the business. She found a way to not only hang on to her customers, but if they do leave and they try to do a little side experiment, they come back to her. You guys have probably heard me talk about being a logos on stuff person, and all you're doing is just putting their logos on stuff. It's nothing really too creative about that. And it creates what we call a concentration risk, because if you're just doing their logo, they can get that from anybody. They can go online. Being able to establish yourself as this kind of go-to person around creativity and being an expert allows your customers to kind of lean on you and rely on you for ideas. And they know that the products that you put together for them are going to be successful in the marketplace. So they're going to raise more money with their fundraiser. One of the things I'm a big advocate of is don't send people to the internet for ideas. let me give you some context around that. So I'll be at a trade show. I'll be talking to an apparel decorator, and I'll say, how do you work with your clients on graphics? And he said, well, we just tell them to go online and find something that they want and then screen grab it and send it to me. They find something they want. They don't need to screen grab it. They can just buy it from the person that they found. Maybe they stumble across custom ink. I found this graphic. This is exactly what I want. I can just order it from them. I don't have to talk to you. So sending somebody to an external website to get graphical ideas, in my opinion, is a terrible, lazy way to do business. You want to control the entire experience. All of you guys are GraphicsFlow users, so you all have access to an art portal. This image that you're seeing right in there is one of the art portals from my personal GraphicsFlow account. I've loaded it up with a bunch of virtual samples and custom artwork specific to East Eagles. But I also, in that portal, I have access to, the entire GraphicsFlow repertoire. I sort my portal by sport, so all the sport stuff comes up first. The idea here is you want to collaborate with the customer and kind of control that whole experience, especially around graphics, and staying ahead of your competitors. You might be in a competitive environment where it's just very hyper competitive. You've got very aggressive folks beating the streets and making sales calls, or you might be in a situation where you're in rural, USA, and there's a Main Street USA sporting goods store in downtown Yellow Springer, Ohio, and they've been there forever, and they kind of take the market for granted. People don't really want to do business with this company, but they kind of feel obligated to it because it's just convenient and they're just located in their town. And so they don't really have to service people that well. You are positioned very uniquely to out hustle that person. And you can do that with graphics or just being creative or just doing something kind of out of the norm, like these laser hatches that you're seeing all over on these Richardson 112 hats. Not everybody's doing that. Not everybody's doing applique. Not everybody's doing big, giant full front embroidery or chenille. Some of these more premium decoration processes can open a lot of doors. And yes, rhinestones are back. Sometimes, using some niche products or some premium products to open doors is a good way to stay ahead of the competition. And that's where samples come in, because there's just no replacing dropping a sample on somebody, a decision maker. And, we talk about that hat. What's that hat cost you to make? All in decorated blank hat, probably under $10. Handing that out strategically to potential buyers, that's going to be some of the best advertising you've ever done. You put out $100 worth of hats, 10 hats, one of them bites, a hat order on something like that's going to be $2-3 grand. You can't buy advertising more efficiently than that. Probably more productive than a Facebook ad or a Google ad, in my opinion. Using those samples, and it doesn't have to be a physical sample. It can be a what we call a virtual sample as well. Emulate graphics trends. So why do retail graphics trends matter? Familiar to people. That's what they're seeing out in the marketplace. People see the major brands and the Adidases and the Reeboks and the Fanatics and these retail brands, and they see the merch that the athletes and social media influencers are wearing, and they connect with that. It looks familiar to them. And bear in mind, these companies are spending millions of dollars researching these and doing test marketing. They know to the penny what is moving and what isn't. What's driving the graphics trends and driving the sales is what they're seeing in the media and what they're seeing on the sidelines of the professional sports and collegiate teams. And so what you're doing is you're leveraging these trends because these graphics look familiar, and just in the buyer's mind, they're like, I can have something as cool as what I saw on that NHL game last night, and I'm just a local little hockey team here in Hibbing, Minnesota. Being able to, create that association with something that's a big deal, but at a smaller scale with a school or a team or a sport or a booster. It's also a great way to kind of jumpstart creativity because you're engaging the client in a creative process. And when you engage the client in the creative process, they have to come with you. And there's an ego element there. Engaging that client in the creative process is a great way to open up new customers, but it's also a great way to kind of tie them down because they're leaning into you for your ideas. And whether that sample is virtual or physical, they're both effective ways of doing it. Graphics trends are really important. So you all have access to customizable stock graphics in your GraphicsFlow platform. You own the sales process, so you can get an idea in front of a customer quite quickly, especially if you direct them to the art portal or if you just hand curate some designs from your account, add them to an art approval, send them over. Now you have version control, so you get instant notifications if they're commenting or if they reject or accept something. You can add another version of the file now so they can say, yep, that's the one I like. Nope, that's the one I turned down. So you've got this incredible tool in GraphicsFlow to really own that sales process. And not only are you saving time and money for yourself because you're reducing those art development costs, but it's just good common sense. You don't want to spend 2, 3, 4 hours coming up with a custom graphic for an order that maybe doesn't pan out, or B is a small order and you can't really cover your time. And honestly, if you get, really honest with yourself about what your time's worth, if you spend 3 or 4 hours on that design, and let's say you put your hourly value at $100 an hour, wow, that's a pretty expensive design, right? So being able to quickly and efficiently get those ideas in front of your customers is critically important. And you have to create value for your art and creative resources. I can create cool stuff by myself. I don't need GraphicsFlow to do that. But I don't have time to spend 4 hours on a graphic where I can just pull up a graphic out of GraphicsFlow, localize it, and get in front of somebody. So I get to win because I don't have to spend all that time doing that, and I can reallocate that time to doing other things. So I do have to kind of let go of my ego. But on the other hand, I can leverage those creative tools and those skills that I've built over the years to really use that creative energy on things that are going to matter, big orders, chasing down big customers. I don't want to use those resources on little orders. I want to use it on big orders. So if I can use my stock designs on some of the smaller orders, that frees me up for the big picture stuff. And that's really how you want to do it. And then also you talk about creative authority. Position yourself as the go-to resource. Clients rely on your ideas. I think we made a really good case around that. They'll come to you every year because they know that you're going to come through for them with having great looking merch and simplifying that buying process. It's all about making it easy for people to purchase from you. They have tons of options. There's tons of vendors out there. Being able to kind of simplify the process and make it easy for people to buy from you, that kind of pushes out the competitors. The way you collaborate and handle artwork is a huge part of that. So, and then production readiness. Copyright issues are a factor these days, but also production readiness. The GraphicsFlow artwork, you can send it out to get a DTF transfer made. You can color separate it from screen printing. It's easy to digitize because it's all built to be production ready. Let's talk about building a winning prospecting campaign and some of the fundamentals. A huge believer in this, lead with graphics, not products. Critically important. You want them to fall in love with the graphic first because they know they have to come through you to get that. And also it's very advisable for you to have an upfront contract with your buyers to say, hey, listen, if you like what you see, buy it from me. So if you're going to get creative ideas in front of them, don't leave that unsaid. Have that conversation with them up front and say, hey, I'm going to get some ideas in front of you. I just want you to be clear that, these are my ideas and you're not free to take these to other people. But if you leave it the graphics, then they fall in love with the graphic and they have to get that through you. Then it's just a matter of figuring out what we're going to put it on. Tailor your focus. Use your top performing graphics, and you know what is working. You know what your best sell-through graphics are. So you can take that best sell-through graphic and tweak it out a little bit, maybe change the fonts, mix up the colors or switch some of the design elements out, but that's a proven winner. And so if you're going to prospect to a new, say, the big rivalry for Saguaro High School, Chaparral, that's where I went to school. I'm not going to take the exact same graphic from Saguaro and get it over to the Chaparral coaching staff, but I might take the same concept and tweak it out with the font and their mascot, obviously, and tweak the colors out, maybe add a drop shadow. But, get your best ideas in front of your customers. Here's what we've done for other people. And these are graphics that have really done well in the marketplace and driven a lot of value and driven a lot of sales in their fundraising program. So maybe we can still try that other graphic, but let's kind of focus on the basics and the known quantities and the things that work. You have to kind of steer people. Keep it simple. Sports artwork doesn't always have to be super complicated. A lot of times the simple stuff with the simple fonts sell. So if you look at the graphics that I curated in the image here on this slide, that's all simple, basic type stuff that will work in the marketplace. And then stay objective. Present graphics that reflect the popular collegiate and pro sports styles, not just your personal preferences. It doesn't matter what you like. What's important is what sells, and what's going to sell is going to be voted on in the marketplace by the consumer. And so if you know things that are working, you do have kind of an obligation to the buyer to steer them into that. Use an online pitch store. That's what I love about online stores. Is you can create an online store just as a showroom to demonstrate capability. You're going to see that just in a little bit. Target the right audience. The fans vastly outnumber the players. If you look at let's just take, for instance, a soccer team, right? A soccer team, you're going to have between 15 and maybe 20 kids on a soccer team. And of those 15 to 20 kids, it's not going to be 2.0 parents. It's going to be, 2.5, 2.8 number of parents because of all the blended families. You got all of those folks and they have parents. So there's the grandparents. You got the aunts and uncles. You got the family friends. You got the siblings. The fans supporting the athletes or the members of the organization or the kids that are in the play from the drama club, that's vastly outweighing just the kids. So that presents opportunities to do some fun niche type graphics and fun niche products that maybe appeal to an older audience or a broader audience. Focus on not just the kids and the participants and the athletes and the members of the organization, but all the people within their network, so to speak. Why online stores win? If you know anything about me, I am an absolute huge advocate of online stores. Why? Well, here's why. You're selling convenience. You're not handling any money. Your customer collects all the money. You're not having to worry about kids, coming with an order form that's got, been in a mud puddle, or there's got dog prints and you can't read the credit card on it. So you're making it really convenient to that group. There's no paper order forms, there's no misspelled names. Also, visibility. You can get reporting. Like with an Inksoft store, you can give the buyer or the Booster Club parent access to their dashboard. They can go in there and they can see what's selling and what's not selling. You have good metrics in there, so you can, make adjustments to the product mix. You say, hey, wow, navy blue is really selling a lot better than the gray. Let's move some of these other products over to navy blue. Also, fundraising. If you have a fundraising module built into your store and you grant access to an administrator to their dashboard, they can see how much money they're making. You can make that public. You can put a fundraising banner on the website. You can make that public, empowering your client. So, being able to give them those metrics and those insights from their store. So maybe the next time you do a store for them, say, hey, this is what we did last year. Send them a link to last year's store and said, hey, let's freshen it up. I put a few created another page in here, and we freshened up some graphics. And I threw some things in that are really hot right now. You don't have to do those, but this is what's really working in other stores. And by the way, we're using direct to film transfer. So we can add this to your store and you don't have to commit to any inventory up front, which is huge. And then drive more sales. So people buy more when it's easy, especially from their phones. So when we look at the commerce that's gone through Inksoft stores every year, we have data around whether or not it's coming from a physical computer or IP address from a phone or tablet. And it's about between 70 and 80% is coming from phones and tablets. That is a really impressive stat. And it probably lines up with consumer habits and the way people are ordering from like Amazon and the other big online resellers. And the other thing I love about stores, you can just react really quick to events. A team unexpectedly wins a championship. You're really just a quick pop-up store from a template in Inksoft and an email and maybe a social media post of getting that in front of somebody and linking to a store and starting to take orders. Maybe it's halftime because it's a blowout, right? So online stores win in the marketplace. And if you're not doing online stores for your customers, two things are going to happen probably at some point that you're not going to like very much. Number one, you are going to lose a customer because somebody came in and did an online store for you and scooped you. And number two is you're going to miss out on an opportunity for like an event or a fast reaction thing because you have no way to deploy that product like somebody that has an online store does. That can literally snap the store up on halftime and they're taking all the school championship merch orders and you missed out on that opportunity. So we don't want to miss out on opportunities. We want to seize opportunities. The other thing I dig about online stores is just the way you collect money. It's just a smart way to collect money because you get paid while you sleep, right? So instant payments, you're getting paid up front. You're not chasing down POs or waiting for credit terms and all that fun stuff. You're doing a revenue sharing program typically. So that hat there, I'm giving them a revenue share on that, maybe 15, 20%, and I'm keeping the lion's share of the profit. I'm setting the retail price, so I'm not getting beat up on the cost because I'm setting the retail price and giving them a percentage back, and there's no risk to them. Because on those hats right there, I can order just one from SNS, and if I'm ordering in patches or doing these myself, I can do one patch. Or maybe I do a program where I get the buyer to commit to 24 patches to just kind of prime the pump. And I charge them a deposit against those patches. There's no risk to me. There's no risk to them. Everybody wins. And the revenue sharing model is the future. I mean, it's what people are doing. Boost profits with better options. You can scale the same design across multiple products. If you're using direct to film transfers, You can set up the artwork in a fashion where it works across multiple colors, not hard to do. If you're doing embroidery, you got a lot of flexibility. So you can mix a product into a store and pop it up real quick, see if it's successful. If not, you pull it down, you switch. Super easy. And then you can start guiding the buyers towards higher value items. Typically, when you're doing bulk orders, let's say it's the basic tee for the senior shirt for the high school, right? When you're doing that, you're not going to make much money on that. It's a commodity product. If you're making $1.50 on that, you're probably doing pretty well. The schools, they're ordering 500 of them. But now you add that laser etched hat or a laser etched water bottle or an applique hoodie or some premium products into that mix, you can make margin on that. And so you're steering the buyer into not only premium decoration processes, but premium products have higher net profit on them, not just the percentages, but the actual profit. If you're doing an applique hoodie and it's selling for $40, your cost in there is still probably only about $15. And if you're paying a revenue share of 20%, you're giving them $8, you're making close to $20 a shirt. So that's pretty good margins. And then you turn your stores into a showroom. So when you're trying to tell your story to somebody else, you said, hey, I'm going to send you a link to a store. This is going to give you some ideas of what we can do for you. I don't think there's any better way to promote your business. Turn every product launch into a marketing moment. Use social media. Showcase your work. Instagram reels or carousels. Posting your work on Facebook. YouTube shorts. When you're doing a new product, send them to your Instagram. This is a screenshot of a cool little web video that Jill Clark from All Star Chair Bling just posted on her Instagram with her 14,000 followers. And you can watch the whole process of the transfer getting pulled off the shirt and them holding it up. What a cool way to show that. And then she hashtags everybody and it's already got 47 likes. So she just launched it. So make it visual, make it viral. You can do things like behind the scenes clips, design previews coming soon. Here's what we're working on. You can do unboxings. You can do the heat press pop-up videos. That's kind of our version of an unboxing. Make sure to use those hashtags. If you don't know how to do hashtags for social media, super easy. Go into ChatGPT and say, hey, this is the market that I'm in. What are going to be the most effective hashtags to raise awareness and get people over to my website around this type of business? And they'll tell them, right here, spirit wear, custom apparel, utilizing hashtags. That's going to be in both your Facebook, your Instagram, and if you're doing TikTok. Boost local visibility with the EEAT strategy. We could do a whole webinar on that. You can look that up online. There's tons of information about it, but that's all about sharing your customer stories, reviews, Google business page listings. It stands for expertise, authority, and trust. And that's super important for local SEO. So automate the reach, personalize the pitch. So just get your Instagram and your Facebook accounts connected. Connect them. So if you post to Instagram, it automatically posts to Facebook. That's what Jill does. She doesn't post anything to Facebook. Just whatever she posts to Instagram automatically gets posted to Facebook. And use AI tools. Use, tools like ChatGPT to craft those compelling email copies. The last slide that I wanted to talk about was BeeGraphiX. And this is the proof of how this concept works. Davis Lego, who's the son of the owner of BeeGraphiX, I've known the family for many, many years. It's a family business. The father, founded it. Davis has kind of put his stamp on it, and just incredible amount of respect for what they've done. If you go to the Inksoft website and you go to blogs, or you just type in BeeGraphiX Inksoft blog, you can read this great article that we wrote about Davis. And they started building these online stores with their Inksoft platform. Last time I checked, they have 1,400 Inksoft stores. If you go in here and you click on Find Your Store, and I don't know, I'll just type in A, and here's all the store listings, Akron Rugby, right? All revenue share. Everything on this website is done with direct-to-film transfers. They have their own transfer capabilities. This is all DTF transfers. Their methodology is just doing these stores for these people. And, one of the things they do that's very smart, they try to keep the artwork, set up on these transfers so they can scale it across a lot of different products. It's just a very good business model, and anybody with GraphicsFlow and Inksoft account can very easily do this. And this is our demo stores. We got a cool little banner in this store. This is a great little back to school store. I notice we're focusing on seniors. And we got a fundraiser banner here. This component right here, I screen grabbed that from another website that I saw that I liked, and I took the screen grab and uploaded it into ChatGPT. I told ChatGPT to create the source code for that. What it did is it just created the source code for that, and I just pasted it in there, and it created this whole block for me. I don't have to write any HTML. I just copied it from another site and had ChatGPT write it. The only thing I did different is I went and uploaded this photo and centered it in the middle. That was it. Even told it to create the button and where the button was going and to round the corners of the button and make it blue. Basic name drop utilizing the Inksoft Designer. Let's go back to storefront view so we can actually play with this. So there you go. You want to name drop that design and give them a quote, have them check out. You do that. This is how you make it easy for your customers to buy from you. And this store right here, any of you that have Inksoft and GraphicsFlow, you can absolutely do this. These are all GraphicsFlow graphics. That's a name droppable parent shirt. Here's a patch. They want to go and drop in seniors or whatever they want to do in here. So this is all embroidery rendering, and the name dropping part is vector text. A couple other fun things in this store is we've got grab banners. This is as close as you're going to get to printing money right here. They can self-service on those. There's so many cool ideas that you can do around signage products and banners utilizing the Inksoft Designer. This is just one example of doing that. That particular tool makes it very flexible, not just to do apparel, but also to do signage and banners. And in this store, I've even added that laser engraved patch thing we were talking about. There you go, right there, class of 26. They place an order, super easy. I have laser engraved water bottles in this store. And then I have just standard merch. So laser engraved water bottle, customizable. Also in this store, we've got the GraphicsFlow art portal built into here. So if you go over here to view designs, there's your art portal. And I've added designs in my art portal using the customization feature to add my own designs in my portal, as well as just stock designs in my portal. I have it sorted by sports first. We've got the Inksoft Designer in here. So if they want to get a quote, upload their own art. I have a decal builder right here. So if you want to order decals, you can order decals. So leveraging these online stores and combining them with these great graphics that you guys are producing in GraphicsFlow, it's magic. I hear this from customers periodically. They say, man, you guys make me look like I'm a big deal. And my standard response to that is always the same response. That's because you are a big deal. Because your technology stack, what you've got in your arsenal of sales and marketing tools, is oftentimes more sophisticated than what even some of these big companies have. You just have leveraged technology. You've invested in GraphicsFlow or in Inksoft or in Printavo, and you just have this incredible suite of technology that allows you to grow and scale and build your business at literally a fraction of the resources and expense of what these big companies have to build out. You don't have to have an art department with 10 people in it. You could do a very substantial load of business just using the stock art customizer in GraphicsFlow. And then maybe if you had stuff that was over your head, sending it out to somebody like GraphicsSource and having them clean up that logo or come up with something really creative, like your shop dog with sunglasses for some self-promotion shirts. That was something one of our customers did recently. So you have these tools. You now have a sales strategy. You have the ability to go in and put together a plan for your back to school season using the strategies and the foundational technology that you've already invested in, and to go out there and win some customers. The trick to the whole thing is getting started. But what you need to do is you need to put together just a little business plan as to how you're going to execute your back to school season, put together the customers that you want to focus on, the product line and the decoration, any kind of competitive factors, put together a schedule for when you're going to start getting things in front of customers, massage up your CRM and set up tasks for follow-up, and just put together a plan. But the time to do this is now. Thank you so much for joining me on GraphicsFlow Academy, and we will see you on the next one.